So teen musicals, are they really just all like sort of cute and fluffy and candy coated? And no, I don't think they are. I think there's a really dark, edgy tone to teen musicals when you really look at it. Hey, I'm Roxie with Roxie's Broadway Breakdown. Welcome back to my channel where I'm all about musical theater. Sometimes I do dance tutorials, singing tutorials, audition help, but sometimes I like to take a really deep dive into musicals. And I was looking at my anthologies and playbills and playlists and thinking, wow, there's a whole genre of nothing but teen musicals and high schools set against musicals set against high schools. And go with me on this, because this genre likes to sort of candy coat musicals about high schools and teens, but underneath there's some really edgy tones and deep topics. So let's start off. In 1960, Bye Bye Birdie came on the scene, and this is loosely based on Elvis Presley's life. Conrad Birdie is the lead, and it's all about how teens sort of got in a frenzy with Elvis. You know, just his rock and roll music, and adults were sort of shocked. They're like, oh my God, like, are teens gonna sort of lose their wholesomeness? Like, is this a destruction of family? And it was, you know, life mimicking art. It's like, oh wow, you know, we're finally acknowledging teens in musicals, but what's happening to them? I mean, that was even a song in the musical, Kids, What's the Matter with These Kids Today? And it acknowledged them, but it was through the lens of like a rock and roll star and sort of what was happening at the time. So then you go on, like a decade or so or more happen, and we get Grease in the 70s. And Grease is a lot more bawdy. The script, if you really look at the script of Grease, especially for the Broadway show, it's pretty bawdy. But it goes back to Elvis. Like, Danny Zuko is definitely supposed to represent like the Elvis character with the black pompadour and the leather, and the music is set against like the 50s, the rock and roll. The Pink Ladies are sort of the OG Mean Girls. There's like teen sexuality and teen pregnancy, and it's kind of pushing the envelope. And of course it's set in high school, but there's like bullying, and you know, it's supposed to be kind of comical and spoofy, but once again, they harken back to the 50s and Elvis and that rock and roll feel and sort of these rebellious teens. Like, once again, they're kind of blaming it. Like, this rebellious rock and roll music is what's causing teens to act out. Okay. Then they kind of just leave that for another decade or so. And we get in 1988, Carrie, the musical, based on the famous Stephen King novel. Now, this was very new. This was like a horror genre musical, like full-on horror genre, like blood and gruesome. I mean, it's Stephen King, and it really flopped on Broadway. It's become a cult classic, but I think at the time people just didn't really know what to do with it. But again, I mean, true, Carrie has like some telekinetic powers, and her mom is really like, she's weird. Okay, Mrs. White's just weird. But there's a couple. I mean, for me, there's only a couple of good songs, but a lot of people love this music. But the whole thing, I think, was just a bit much for people. But again, there's this thread of like Carrie being bullied at school and the girl being bullied. And there's just, but I think it's just a lot for people with the horror genre mixed in. And so we have then Fame that comes in. Well, before Fame, you have Hairspray that comes into the picture. And Hairspray, once again, harkens back to that sort of fluffy candy music of the 60s. But it again, it deals with such a oh so light topic of desegregation. Yes, let's tackle desegregation set against like teens in high school. And you have Tracy Turnblatt that's, you know, a robust girl, and she has to deal with a little bit of bullying. And they're trying to mix all these topics in and set against candy-coated music. Then you have Fame, which is based on the very popular movie. And it's about kids going to a very competitive theater, dramatic arts school. And these aren't like your typical, you know, kind of like theater nerds, hey, musical theater nerd kids. No, this is like a very edgy, competitive theater school with dealing with all their own issues, some serious issues. And so it's not a very like light-hearted musical. There's some great music. I'm not saying that these musicals, like I love the music in Hairspray, I love the music in Fame. So I'm not saying these are bad musicals, maybe except for Carrie. But I'm not saying, and I love Grease. I love Grease. But I'm not saying these are bad musicals. I'm just saying there seems to be this trend starting to happen, that there's this undercurrent of sort of darkness in these teen musicals. So then like back to back, you get like Bring It On, Heathers, and Mean Girls. All of which, if you look at them, are basically the same musicals framed in just sort of different plots. Like Bring It On are your kind of typical mean girl cheerleaders that are competing against each other. Heathers are like the popular girls, the Heathers being really mean to a girl, singling her out, but like on steroids. Like it's murdering people and a psycho boyfriend. And then you've got Mean Girls, which is based off like a book and the very famous Tina Fey, you know, comedy about the Plastics, the Mean Girls, being really mean and bullying one girl. It's sort of a dark comedy, but is it? But anyway, yes, it's meant to be. So you've got like those three musicals all kind of coming within a few years apart. Again, the common thread of high school, Mean Girls, bullying. And somewhere mixed in there, like in 2016, was Dear Evan Hansen dealing with teen depression, teen suicide, the effects of social media on teens. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And then in there, soon after, we had The Prom, which is two girls that just want to go to the prom together. They're lesbians and they want to go to prom together, but they face a lot of obstacles and discrimination. I mean, it's not just an easy way to prom. There's a lot for them to get to prom. And then somewhere in there, there's West Side Story and most recently The Outsiders, which they're really not set against high school, but they're very teen-driven stories. West Side Story obviously is like Romeo and Juliet, a contemporized version of Romeo and Juliet, set against like two rival gangs that are fighting each other. And The Outsiders is a very teen-driven musical with a lot of angst and the haves versus the have-nots, bound to be a combustible situation where they're fighting and two rival gangs ending in tragedy. So like West Side Story and The Outsiders, although very different, but there's a little bit of overlap with like rivalry and gang situation, and definitely both have a rumble in it. You see where I'm going with that. Considering all of these topics, and I admit, high school's not an easy place, okay? High school's not easy for anybody. But taking all this into consideration, I look back at all of these musicals, and not only is there sort of a common thread of like, high school's not easy, there's bullying, there's sadness, there's depression, there are these kind of, you know, highly charged topics, but they all end with these really like fun songs at the end. Like it's all gonna be great in the end. Like we go together and you can't stop the beat and can't we be 17? Like a reprisal of that song, and just like I just wanna dance with you. Like it all ends up on these really upbeat, highly energized songs like, yeah, high school sucked, but we're gonna look to the future and it's all gonna be great, and just these like supercharged, highly sugar-coated songs. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. We've kind of gone through these candy-coated sugar shows that are really dark if you look at them. But on the end, man, we're going to end on a bang. We're going to end on a high note that says everything's going to be great. After high school, it all gets better. Your future looks great. And life's just going to be super after this. It's all going to be perfect and fun. That's sort of an oversimplification of life after high school. Fame, I'm gonna live forever. If it were only so simple and easy. That's what I find interesting about these musicals. I love them for the most part. I love a lot of these musicals. I do think they're great. I do think they're classic. I think the music in them is fun. I think there's a good message in some of these musicals. Yes, high school is hard. Life does get better after high school. And I'm not even saying that a lot of this stuff doesn't happen in high school. Yes, there's bullying in high school. Yes, there's mean people in high school. Yes, you do have to deal with like teen depression and body image and all these kind of things are dealt with in high school. But I just find it odd that like all these teen musicals have such a formula, kind of a pattern they follow, and that they all end up in such a happy place at the end, for the most part. Anyway, I found it interesting. I'd like to get feedback on this and see if anybody else, can you think of a musical I left out? What your thoughts are? I would just like to know your thoughts. All right, there you go. There are my thoughts. Leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next.